Okay, folks, I'm going to straighten something out that I didn't realize I needed to do, so I apologize. But a lot of times when I'm riding these horses, these older ones, I make the comment I would never do this on a colt. And what I meant was that I'm not going to take a colt, something that's got 30 rides possibly, or never had a bit in its mouth, and then put a bit in its mouth and do that. That was the main point I was making. But now I understand why people got a hold of me and said, what would you do with a colt? So what I'm going to do is show you, we're going to pretend that Monty here is a colt, and he's been started and ridden outside, walk, trot, and lope, so he's ready to start learning how to turn. So that's where we're at. So if you'll just work with me on the imagination part, and I'll show you what I do. So the halter has to be on the cartilage, not on the bone. Cartilage, bone. That's the noseband. The back end of the halter, I don't want it anywhere near that muscle that I've showed you that works for a hackamore horse. That muscle being right here. Well, this halter isn't going to be there. It's not going to hit it the same way. I won't be brushing it. So that's why the halter's big. Now, the halter is bigger than what you would want. So, to make a hackamore, I just take the rein on a halter this size and I wrap it around one turn, I make a turn with it. Now I just go under the rope and tie an overhand knot. The tail of the knot is only this long, so you don't scare a horse. So now I just twist the rope and tighten it down on the halter. That is how you make a hackamore out of a halter. For those of you that are teaching your horses to stretch, the left front foot's forward, so I'm going to push on the saddle horn, push the weight to the right front and tap the left front. Through the saddle horn, I can feel the horse shift his weight. Then I'll move his foot forward. Now I'm going to pull on the saddle horn, and he moved his foot. 2 weeks after the fact, that's how they learn to stretch. I take 2 weeks to do it. You can do it in a day if you want, but I'm just telling you what I do. So the object is to get this horse, this colt, to yield his rib and walk in a circle on his own. So in order to get that, it's all pressure and release. I never stay steady pressure with either leg. I bump and get off. Watch my left foot. Bump and get off. I don't hold steady pressure when I'm training a horse. When I'm moving the head, I bump and release. So the first thing they have to do is to walk in a circle with their rib pushed to the outside and carry themselves walking in a circle on a loose rein. Now bear in mind, collection isn't a part of this story. A colt at this stage, there is no collection involved. I'm not asking for it, I don't care. So I'm going to just start walking in a circle. Now you do this in a halter, and then if you ride your colts in a snaffle, when you put the snaffle on, it only takes minutes. Instead of bumping their mouth in a snaffle, you'd bump their nose with a halter. So I'm wanting a circle, so I'm looking into my circle, which takes my shoulders. The horse doesn't read this, but it doesn't matter. If you have a problem with you not knowing where your hands are, just let go of the rein. If he starts making too small of a circle, I simply put my leg on him. Bump, release, bump, release. Move him out with my right foot. I don't have to worry about my left foot because he's got plenty of impulsion. All I want him to do is walk in a circle on a loose rein. What you need to watch from where you are is watch the right jaw. And that jaw will be pointing in. That's what you do not want. When the jaw turns, the skull actually turns and the jaw disappears. That's how you get a round horse. See the jaw right there? That's the brace. Bump. It just melted. It just went in. One of the reasons I use a halter is because if you use a traditional snaffle bit that's broken in the middle, you're going to lose a portion of their brain because they're focused on their mouth. This halter I've gone down isn't intimidating. It's not anything. It's just on his nose. So I get more of the horse's brain without any kind of worry. Now I'm going to change directions. And what you'll find out on a colt is on Monday he'll give to the left really nice. And he won't to the right. And maybe on Thursday he'll give to the right and he won't give to the left. Well, okay. Moving right along, after several Mondays and Thursdays he'll give both directions. Right there is correct. That's wrong. Follow your nose, horse. Bump, 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 there, bump. Left leg on, because I don't want the circle smaller. Right leg is off. Watching the jaw. You can see the brace in the jaw. What you'll find is in time, if you're on soft ground, which we don't have any, you'll see a groove in the ground where he walked the perfect circle. When it starts off there, it's not a perfect circle. It just changes because he's not used to what you're wanting. Bump, release, there. Bump, release. Now whether he knows it or not, you're being very subtle about introducing your body, which he doesn't hear as a colt, but he will. Inside leg, boom. Every time his head goes the wrong direction, you just bump. There. Bump, 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 give. Bump, give. Bump, give. Carrying himself in an arc. Changing hands. He knows it. His nose is the wrong way. Bump. Falling into the circle. Some people call it dropping the shoulder. I just say it's making the circle too short. Right jaw is the brace today. Bump. Inside leg pressuring. I don't have the jaw yet. There, I just got the jaw. Bump. Bump. Now when you stop, you just lift straight up. Now, the word bump is like the word contact. Please watch how I bumped. It isn't a jerk. You don't snap their head off and you don't just go real slow and beg them to move. You bump. But if you don't give it back every single time, then you'll just make him dull. So that's the foundation part of this. So when you get the circles, and remember about perfection. You get the circles going both ways and the horse is bent like this and he's walking in a circle and he's not worried about it. He comes to a point that you'll feel and he'll say, so. Well, when he says, so, then you got him. So the next exercise is a D, and I'm going to do it towards the camera. It's a straight line and then a circle. Straight line, then a circle. So it's not a full circle, it's a D. And you'll do that to the left and to the right. That gives him time on the straight line part to get a couple strides in, so that when you go to cue him, he will bend his own head. That's why the straight line, then the circle. This is phase 2. Now, while I'm thinking about it, I got to tell you, I made a run to Oregon, and I went up as far as Portland and had a really good time. Took a horse up there and did a couple clinics, but I got to meet Randy and Kim DeWalt in Eagle Point, Oregon. Straight up good people. Allowed me to come onto their outfit. They're trainers. They're very good horsemen. They got it figured out. And one of the reasons I know is because when a really good horse person invites you to your place thinking, well, they might pick up something, that's a compliment. I don't take that lightly. They let me come there. I did lessons with their clients, and we had a really good time, so I commend them. The reason I'm telling you about them is because I'm around the country. I meet a lot of people, and these folks actually sell colts. And a lot of people ask me about colts. Well, I've only got one personally. I only have one colt. The horses that Deb and I deal in are older horses from Mexico. So my point is that if you're interested in buying a colt, a nice registered quarter horse colt, these folks are the ones to get a hold of, because they'll be straight up with you. And I think I've got it right that they're from halter broke to riding outside. So Deb will put the contact information on the screen after the little movie here, and then you can hunt them up if you want. They're just real nice people. So now I'm going to do the D exercise. Bump, release. Oh, that reminds me. Unless you're in the Dairymen's Association, this is not how you release. Watch my right hand. Bump, release. Bump, release. That's not how you do it. That's how you milk a cow. How you release is bump, release. It's all in the elbow. Keep your elbow next to your side. That's the math for a straight line. Bump, release. Bump, release. This is not it. This is it. So now I'm going to make a nice big circle, and then I'm going to look straight ahead and head straight line, 1, 2, 3 strides, and look. Outside leg, inside leg. Now I'm going to make a D. I've got a bend in my horse. I'm looking and look. As I look, I bump. Now, look the other way. Bump. 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 Straight line. 1, 2, 3, 3 to 4 strides, and look. Bump. And what you got to know is that over time, there's two things that happens here. You do it enough times, the horse starts to figure it out. And the other thing is you have less bump with your hand. And you have more communication with your body. That's why you have to stare straight ahead. And when you get ready to turn, you turn your skull and take the horse with you. Inside leg pushes the rib out. Outside leg is for impulsion. Look. Straight. Look. And when you look, take your hand with you. Bump. Now, as you can tell, you lose the horse's mind. Well, that's why you're teaching them. Straight, right hand, look at the same time, and bump. Give it back. Always be aware of your off hand. It's not supposed to be doing anything. If you have a problem with it and you forget and you're always pulling on the horse, just get rid of that. Now, straight line, reach down, drop the rein, and look. Inside leg, loose rein, left foot moves it out, looking forward, pick up the other rein, and bump. Now, once again, there's a thing called the feel that we all know about. Exhale, stop. Here's the training part right now. He gets to relax. It's no different in the gym. You do X amount of reps, at least they tell me that. You do X amount of reps and then you take a little break as you move on to the whatever it's called. So that's what we're doing here. Is this horse is stretching its neck, relaxing, everything. So the next thing I need to clear up is the homing pigeons. That comes up a lot at parties. Back in the old mission days, there was missions from San Diego to San Francisco. I think there was 20 some, or 17, I don't know. Anyway, it was a day's ride between missions. The people that owned the ranchos, the big grant holders, the people that had the big ranches, were pretty much all related because there was a small population in California. And the sons and daughters of the people that got the land grants, of course, married and moved on, like Pico and Bandini and all these people. So they had relations up and down California. So what I've learned when I read the book that my friends from Sonora gave me about Joaquin Murrieta, which is incidentally, if you're into history, it's a good book, is that these people would travel in, say, a coach, and they'd have like a 2 or 4 up hitch, and they were very wealthy. And they'd have these carriages. Now they had dirt floors, but they had really nice horses and really nice gear. So they may go from mission to mission, which means rancho to rancho, and visit, okay? At every mission, if they wanted to, they would buy some homing pigeons that the local folks that work there raised. So now they leave San Diego and they got a couple of them pigeons and they get up to Santa Barbara. They write a message, we made it to Santa Barbara. Everything's great, the weather's nice, which is kind of redundant in California, but anyway. Then they send the pigeon back to San Diego. That's how they communicated up and down the El Camino Real, the King's Highway. That's how it was done. The other way was, it was a highway, so there was people going north and south, and they were very simpatico. They had a lot of manners. Everybody was very polite. So they would stop and visit and say, would you mind telling my Aunt Martha I left my sweater? And so that person was heading south, and they'd do it. So even though it was frontier, there was only one highway until the other highway came called the Camino Viejo, which is another story. But anyway, that was the communication lines on the road going up from mission to mission. I thought that was pretty neat. So now my horse has settled, and I'm going to move on because of the what would you do with a colt thing. And what happens is that when you're riding a colt, they start to move into collection because they're moving their head back as you bump them. So you feed on that, and I don't teach a colt to back up. That's one of the last things I work on with a colt. So when I'm ready for it, I've already bumped the skull a million times, so my hands are down, and I simply bump left, right, and I sit up and I take my legs off. Left, right, right, because the nose is turned to the left, I'm bumping right, there's the brace, bump, there's the skull, feet made it, bump, release. Now once again, as you do this, don't hold your breath. It'll take you longer. And I mean literally don't hold your breath. Hands down, bump, release. Now, I simply sit up, take my legs off, put a dish in my spine, lean back a ½ an inch and exhale. I say, excuse me, by moving my hands. Sit up. Nothing happens. Don't take it personal. Bump, 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 bump. Horse move, bump, bump. Now my legs are off. If the horse goes crooked, I'll use my legs. I can tell by my tracks, it started off dragging and it's starting to pick his feet up. He just lowered his skull. Here, see his mouth? This is that conversation thing. Now this is a 9-year-old gelding. Well, the good news is if you've got a colt that you have been working with, everything I'm showing you is going to happen in half the time. These horses with the mileage on them, that's why I approach them differently, because I have different ways to get things done. A colt, man, it's like a ball of clay. You enjoy it. So now I'm going to ask again. Watch my hands. Excuse me. Legs off, spine. I need you to walk backwards. Thank you so much. Please keep walking. Now you can go ahead and put your nose down whenever you feel like it. Well, there, he just put himself into collection. Touch. Exhale. This is what it looks like with a colt, folks. Now the thing about a colt to me, I've showed you 3 exercises. Now for me personally, if I rode a colt 3 to 4 times a week, I would guess on a normal colt, because everybody always wants to know a timeline, working on this 10 minutes a day and then going for a ride, in a couple weeks I'd have it. If that gives you any kind of an idea what to look forward to. If you do all this in one day, then you're going to build resentment in your horse, period. So by not getting off and telling my horse that he's clocked out, I'm teaching him right now, and that's the wind down part of the class. In other words, you don't have to do anything. So now I'd like to address another email that was sent to me about cheatgrass, and they wanted me to explain what I'm talking about, how to get rid of it. Well, you can use machinery and pesticides, and then of course you will have burnt fossil fuel and killed a lot of people. But the other way is grazing, or excuse me, herbicides. The other way is grazing, and that's what I'm big on. So cheatgrass in the West comes up first. That's why it's called cheat. It's cheating. It's coming up earlier than the rest of the grasses. But when it comes on like a carpet, and it's all beautiful and green. Everybody's thrilled to death. Well, the fact is, when it finally matures and heads out, now it is an absolute invasive nightmare. I'll tell you why. As it comes up, it's so thick that the other grasses are shaded out. They're competing with cheatgrass, and there's so much cheatgrass, they're deterred from coming up. Okay, the reason cheatgrass grows so fast is because it is a grass and the way it's made. What makes it grow is photosynthesis, which we all learned that in 5th grade. So if you will take your livestock, to me, sheep is the best because they move fast and their mouth is like scissors. Cow has to use her tongue to eat with. So you take a band of sheep and head across a bunch of cheatgrass, and they'll walk and they'll chase that grass. So what I'm getting at is you have to pay attention to the amount of moisture and the amount of growth. So if you graze with cheatgrass, a week later you need to ride your horse back and look where you started and see if it's coming back quick, which tells you got to speed up your graze and go back again. The biggest problem with the government using animals to graze with is they never allow the grazer enough time to come back to an area. It's like leafy spurge with goats. They just let them go through one time, all the leaves are gone, everybody's thrilled, and they move them on. Well, that isn't how it works. You have to retard the root system. So if you graze cheatgrass and it keeps trying to come, then you go back and hit it again. Now, it can't have photosynthesis because there's nothing for the sun to reflect on. So what happens is the root, that say the root's this long, because of not being fed, the root gets shorter. So if you can get the root to deplete, that's how you get rid of the cheatgrass. Okay, also, once you've gone through once, if you hit it hard, you come back, you'll start to see the other grasses starting to come through. Look at the 2 and decide. Don't come back there. Leave. You've got good grass coming. You deterred the cheatgrass enough. Okay, once again, the cow takes her tongue and sticks it out and bends the grass and snips it off with her teeth against her palate. That's the way a cow eats. All right. So they can follow up if that's needed. It depends on the terrain, the elevation, the amount of moisture in the ground, and the height of your grass. So the simple answer is you have to go know where you are, where you've been, and where you're going when you're a grazer. And you can get out and walk around with a range con and educate him. And then over time, I think that if we can prove to the BLM, for example, the proper style of grazing isn't because of our greed being ranchers. It's a simple fact that it's the cheapest, smartest way to turn grass into meat instead of dragging a disc across it, which any farmer will tell you that's how you bring weeds up. Then you got a really big fire. So I hope that clears it up on the cheatgrass, and I hate to keep babbling, but my horse needs to rest. And one last item, that a veteran from the Gulf War got a hold of me, and the stuff that I was telling you about, that ASEA they call it, he told me that it's helped him. So my mission is complete when a Gulf War veteran is getting help from, because they had a lot of pollutants. It was burning oil fields. So anyway, this is how this is done. How would I do it if it was a colt? That's how I would do it, those 3 exercises. And folks, I want to tell you a story about Grasshopper. Some of you know him. He's that great big black colt I've been riding. It's a company horse. He's got a stripe, white stripe. And I had him for 3 months and transitioned him to a Western bit. He's 7 years old. Turned him back into the ranch, and then they have me ride him when I'm down there. Okay, so I've been riding him, I don't know, over a year, probably off and on. Not very often. So the other day, I'm working the alley, and I'm bringing cattle by myself to put them down the chute for them to work on them, process them in the chute. So I make 4 trips, 5 trips, whatever it is. I've got him in my Western bit. He walks down the edge of the alley. I peel off 8 head. He turns. He trots sideways because I taught him how, because it's a wider alley than normal, and I don't need a crew. So I trot sideways, then I can jump forward or back if they decide to fall into sin. And those of you that cowboy for a living, I know you know what I'm talking about. If you don't know, you can ask me, but just think about it and you'll see what I'm getting at. So I put these 8 head in, I put them into the chute, then I go get 8 more. Well, as I approach them in the alley, what I do is I stay as close as I can to the edge of the alley, and when I get about 20 feet away, I get real slow, because I don't want them jamming the end of the alley. That's where they get hurt. And then they spurt by you. So I walk real slow when I first approach them. So after about the 5th trip the other day, I'm walking down the alley and I'm thinking of lunch or something. And my horse, on his own, got into what I call a schooling walk. He was like this. So me, being borderline giddy, I just kind of stay out of his way, and he walks down the fence. I get my 8 I want. I put my right leg on and open my left shoulder. He comes around. He automatically gets in a diagonal and then an absolute side passing at a trot. Boom. It was the highlight of the year for me, because it doesn't take much for me. But what I'm getting at is when you have those moments, then you're validated as to what you've been doing, and your horse is listening to you. And with the cattle genetics in him, it all came together that day. So I kind of won the world, and I don't want to brag, but I just thought I'd share that with everybody. And now I'm going to step off a minute and show you one last thing. I know you're tired of me babbling, but I got to show you, because we got to keep those cards and letters coming. This is my spur strap. Okay, all you need is a sharp knife. It's cut out of a piece of leather. This is cut out of a saddle string. That's how much play is in my spur. If I get hung up, this is going to break. I don't like buckles. I don't like buckles because of hog wire pins and all the reasons in the world. When your hands are no good, you can't do buckles. So you leave these on your boots. That's how you make them. If you don't get it, take a spur strap with a buckle on it and just take this part and lay it on a piece of leather and skip the buckle part. Get it? So there you go. And I can't get her to stand in front of the camera because she's holding it, but Deb and I want to thank everybody that's been getting a hold of us, because we really enjoy hearing from you. And if we don't get back to you for a while, don't worry about it, because well, we're busy, and so are you. But just want to wish you a Merry Christmas, and I think the new term for the new world that we're into now is pay it forward. I've seen so many people get nice simply because they look around, somebody else is down and out. So that sure is a nice thing to see, because I got to meet a lot of nice people this summer, and even though there was a virus going around. So good luck, and I want a special good luck to the Navajo Reservation. Thank you very much.